And we are live. Magic. A warm welcome, folks, to yet another exciting episode of Powering Good with Hitachi Vantara. The podcast has been doing amazing so far. In our past three episodes, we've been chatting about megatrends, sustainability, and rapid urbanization. That's 1, 2, and 3. Please go check it out. It's on all our respective platforms. Give it a listen. If you're with your family and friends who want to hear what Powering Good's all about, please let them listen to it. And today's episode, I'm even more excited because, again, with everything else, we've been living through the changes, but now so more than ever. Country manager and sales director Dennis Naidoo joins you once again. Dennis, what's happening? How are you, brother?
Dalin Oliver, away. Good to see you again. Good to chat to you again. It's always a pleasure, mate. It really is.
Away. Good to see you as well. It's the first one for 2023. Is that correct? Or is my brain still in 2022?
I think you're correct. I think we recorded one we published one this year that was recorded last year. But yeah,
Yes.
true. This year is the first one we recorded.
It's our first one that we're recording, and may it be a smooth and fresh one. And the reason I'm smiling is because we're chatting technology. Before we get into any other questions, can you believe that you've lived through so much in terms of progress with technology, Dennis?
It's hard to believe, but I suppose every generation's the same, right? You know, people who lived 100 years ago never believed that what they were doing 100 years ago was even possible 200 years ago. So that's the constant evolution, the constant innovation, the constant research and development and technology breakthroughs. Yeah. Um,
And what I'm excited about is the way in which the different age groups have experienced it, because with the Gen Zs, they live in a technology flooded world. Whereas with my generation and your generation, our experiences differ according to the time period. So let's break it up into 100 years. So take it back to 1923 up until 2023. Give me some tidbits. What's the big changes that's influenced the world?
Well, I mean, before I even get into that, I mean, you talked about the different generations' experience. When I tell my mother I'm recording a podcast, do you have any idea how difficult that is to explain? What is a podcast? What is a stream? Right? I mean, so she has no concept of what this is, But I explain it as it's radio. So yeah,
Yes.
the last 100+ years, I've seen some massive technology breakthroughs. But let's just kind of zone in on what are the things that changed the face of humanity, that changed the
Mm.
world, changed the way we think, we operate. We don't talk about cloud computing or the latest silicon chip. Those are always advancing. What has been the things that have absolutely changed, the way we live? And top of the list would be things like the telephone. This podcast, by the way, is a product of 100+ years of innovation, of technology breakthrough.
Mm.
100 years ago, we would not have a podcast. We would not have a screen. You would not have a browser. You
No.
would not have a computer, a telephone, a TV. So, the ability to talk to somebody remotely, that changed everything. That changed
Mm.
communication platforms. It changed the way we engage with people, the ability to communicate a thought without even looking at the person's eyes. So that was a big change for us. And then came TV. Not only were we able to listen and talk to somebody, now you can see something on TV. You can catch live sport. You can catch the news. You can watch some drama. There's entertainment. There's stand-up comedians on TV, Dalen. So
Yeah.
TV brought the world to your home. A light bulb, electricity, that changed the
Mm.
world. No more candles, no more studying with a paraffin lamp. I grew up with no electricity for 13 years of my life. We studied with a candle, we studied with a paraffin lamp. And the first time we got electricity, it was like magic, man. It was like absolute in awe of this. You kept playing with the light switch, just to see the light come on and off.
Yes. Run me through that moment. Run me through that moment. How old were you when you first got electricity and experienced it for the first time?
It was 1982, so that I was 10 years old. Uh,
Wow.
10 years old, 1982 was the first time we got electricity. And we still had the old gas stove, and, so it was just lights and a few plug points. But now you could plug
Yes.
in before that, amazingly, we used to watch TV because we got the TV before we had electricity. And we had a little inverter in the lounge. And every evening, my dad would connect the van battery through the window to the TV inverter, and you'd watch TV. And then the next morning, all the kids in the village would have to come and push the van to start it and get to school.
But, and you know what? That's so interesting because I never grew up like that. I was fortunate enough to have electricity from the get-go. And then again, the new generation, they've got social media from the get-go. So you mentioned TV. Was it color or black and white?
It was a black and white 37-inch Telefunken TV. Yeah, never
Nice.
forget it. Never forget it.
What was louder, the inverter or the actual volume of the TV?
No, no, the inverter was silent. I mean, there was no generator or anything. It was just connected straight to the van.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And then color TV, when was that first experience?
Uh, I'm gonna say that was around 85, maybe.
Mind blown.
Yeah,
Mind blown completely.
yeah. 80, I think it was 83 or 85. Yeah, but and then it was a big TV, So and then the whole village would come to our house and we'd all watch TV because we were the only ones to have one. And then at 8 o'clock, all the kids had to go to bed because that's when Dallas and the soap operas and started. And the adults would watch that. Nice
Yes.
community, nice way to grow up.
Yeah, no, I can hear it's great memories. Even with internet, I just missed dial up internet. Did you have dial up internet when you were coming up?
I did have dial-up. I had a 56K US robotics modem, and I'd run a 10-meter cable from the telephone point to my room so I could surf the web on my own. And yeah, interesting times. Interesting times.
The youth don't know how lucky they are. Okay, my
No,
word.
no.
So we're living in a forever changing world, and things are magical. People have more access, technologies at. People always say this is the most advanced generation, but I guess every generation says that. The reasons for this advancement in technology, obviously, it has to keep up with society, etc., etc. But the core reasons for it.
Yeah, let's talk about a couple of more things that actually changed in the last 100 years that I think were game changers. Absolute. So the personal computer. It brought the telephone to your house. It brought all the converged technologies into a single place. You could now start to do things. You could do, word processing. Dispensed with the typewriter. So the personal computer brought power of computing to the home. It's like an auxiliary brain in your own house. And then the internet, the first internet was ARPANET, which was really just a closed community. But then the browser on your personal computer gave us all access to information. Now you didn't have to buy the Encyclopedia Britannica. It's all on hand, right? Before
All
before
had
you
that,
even
all had that encyclopedia at home lined up. We all had
yeah,
that.
yeah. Now imagine the first guy who was going around selling the encyclopedias. It was an old sales guy with a briefcase, and he go and sell. What did he sell? He sold education. He sold a future belief
Mhm.
to somebody. Your kids will be smart. He sold them information. And then imagine the first guy who sold the internet. And the buyer is saying, well, show me this thing. And the guy says, well, I can't really show you. It's like kind of
Wait.
online. It's in the ether. Well, what does it do? Well, it gives you information. But I've got the encyclopedia. Why do I need this thing? So the advances in bringing personal computing, the connection to the internet, the web browser, that all of that changed the way humans started to engage, started to share information. A lot of it was generated by the military. That's where the big R&D spends were. Needing to have real-time intelligence and information and satellite positioning. That was another big one, GPS positioning. It showed where people were, where things are, how they're moving. It showed patterns. Um, and you have the digital camera. We dispensed with the film and the dark rooms and the red lights and all of those things, and we got on tap uh, record of a memory. That's what the digital camera brought. Right?
Yeah.
The ability to recreate a moment forever in an instant without needing a photographer and all of those things. And then social media, that brought big change in our ability to
Yes.
not just communicate and share information, but now you actually start to share feelings, you start to share sentiment, you start to create critical mass in the way you think. You look at how Twitter has changed the landscape of how people coalesce.
Yeah.
Facebook, the ability to share your family memories on Facebook, so people across the globe can still see and experience your family moments. And then the modern smartphone kind of brought all of this stuff together. Today on your phone, you have a telephone, you have a TV, you have a light bulb, you have a personal computer, you have a digital camera, you have a browser, you have all of these things now,
Yeah.
a single device. And probably what's the next thing is you'll be deviceless, right? This is all going to be on a pair of glasses or sunglasses that you wear.
Do you think we're gonna get there? Or we're there already?
We're getting there. I look at some recently. I play a lot of golf, as you know, and I saw, I've got a watch that shows you the distance, and I've got a phone that shows me distance, and we've got a GPS on the card. And recently, I saw a video where a guy's got a pair of glasses that he puts it on, and it looks up the flag, and it tells him the distance, and it tells him the wind, and it tells him all of those wonderful things.
Gee, how? How? Steve, how? It's so scary because I mean it's the space of artificial intelligence, like all
Yeah.
these things coming to fruition. Is it chat GPT? Um,
ChatGPT. It's a buzzword now, isn't it?
buzzword. Is it people are worried? Is chat GPT gonna take the copywriters' jobs? It's
Yeah.
still have you had any experiences or interactions with it?
We'll talk about that in a second. I mean, ChatGPT is the big thing. It's all about artificial intelligence, but we'll chat about that in a second because that's one of the big things coming up, right? That's what the
Yeah.
future holds. So we talked about the stuff that's happened in the last 100 years, and how we got to where we are today. And you asked a very important question, Dana. What drives that? What is the stuff that makes people want to innovate, to find better ways of doing things?
Yes.
And I think the first part, and maybe not always the most important one, but it's human curiosity, right? We want to know what's happening out in space. We want to know what's happening underground. We want to know what's happening in other people's minds. We want to know what, the FOMO. Are we missing out on some action on
Yeah.
Facebook? Where's the party? So curiosity drives a lot of invention. It drives and long before we had R&D spend and large enterprises pumping money into finding ways of doing things, human curiosity drove a lot of this. And then, when you synchronize human curiosity with a bit of purpose, and this is a word I always use in all the podcasts, and do you have purpose?
Yes.
And you find the Marie Curies, you find the Albert Einsteins. They weren't paid. They weren't promised riches. They were
Yeah.
curious, and then they were driven. They had purpose. They wanted to find a solution to problems. They wanted to make the world a better place. And then, fast forward to the age where we have large enterprises that actually control the world and the economy. EBITDA drives innovation.
Yeah.
The need to make more money, the need to make more profit, the need to give shareholders value, and
Mm.
these large enterprises putting large sums of money into our research and development, hiring the best talent, graduates and smart people to do things. Some companies have 2 or 3 R&D teams, and they targeted to beat each other. You invent something and you invent something better, and
Yeah.
this is a wheel now. Whilst I'm not always a fan of just being driven by profit. You have to admit it's been a useful mechanic and a useful vehicle to drive this innovation. But
Mm.
this pendulum must always constantly find a balance. You can't only be driven by this profit or the need to find shareholder value. You need to be powering good. Can you align that purpose and that
Mhm.
drive to find a commercially viable way to change humanity, to change the way we all exist and bring happiness, bring contentment. And then the competitive landscape. People are competitive. You take the big IT companies, take the founders of Oracle versus the founder of Amazon versus the current CEO of Microsoft. They all want to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
It's not about cloud computing and it's not about the internet. It's actually sometimes it's driven by ego. We want
Yeah.
to we're competitive as human beings, and we want to show we can do something better. And then, man, human consumption, instant gratification, consumerism, that
Mm.
drives a big part of innovation and technology. So every company out there, you get a call every day from an insurance company, I'm sure.
You get an SMS to remind you. You know what's the funniest is when it's the SMS starts with congratulations. You're like, oh my word, what did I win? Like I didn't
Yeah.
win any. Yeah. No, it's there. It's in our face all the time, and we can't avoid it. But don't you feel that this is a good space in terms of people are more aware? So powering good, that thread, they're always going, if it's having a green building, if it's having a building that's solar powered, etc., etc., etc. So at least we're not purely capitalist driven in a state where and a world where it's about profit. There are still
Yeah,
good humans around.
yeah,
We
yeah.
should be happy about it. Take the plus.
100%. All of those previous topics we discussed, by the way, around mega trends and powering good and societal changes, we would not be in the space we are today where we can understand those problems and address them if it was not for the technology that we use, right?
Yes.
So the fact that Greta Thunberg can put something out on Twitter and, everybody would listen, or Elon Musk would tweet something and a share price dive somewhere else in the world.
Yes.
And a video clip about Russia now pegging oil to gold and not the dollar. Suddenly,
Yeah.
the gold price goes up. So the power of this communication platforms, the technology that it brings, is unbelievable. So you're spot on, Dalen. We are educated uh, like
Yes.
never before. Are we smarter? Arguably not.
and, 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 and and I mentioned it earlier, and you said we're going to chat about it, and I'm very excited. So I jumped the gun, and I don't mind because artificial intelligence blows my mind because I struggle to comprehend it. I still go, surely not. How? Really? You mean we might not be needed as human beings? Oh my word! This is a lot.
This is a lot. So Dale, artificial intelligence, I think for the most part, people of my generation, we associated this with science fiction. We're watching movies like 2001, Space Odyssey, or
Yes.
HAL 2000 Computer. These are things that we only saw in science fiction movies. And AI is no longer a topic only found in sci-fi movies. We're now at the
Mhm.
cusp of AI emergence. And the elements that AI emergence consists of is machine learning, natural language processing. These are now a daily part of our lives. Today, AI can understand, diagnose, and solve problems from both structured and unstructured data. It can take different data sources like voice and video, combine it with transactional data from your bank. A very simple sort of analogy of how AI would work is, if you with a specific financial institution and you have a voice call with them about on the call center, you've sent an email to them, you've got some transactions that have gone through, and you have a topic that is common across all of those things you're addressing with this financial institution. AI would be able to find all those threads and piece together a story, a narrative. And before someone even resolves your problem, they're educated about your problem, how long it's been going on, when did you call, how did you speak, how were you treated, what's the balance in your bank account. So this is where AI, sort of the rudimentary application of AI, go. But the focus and the challenges of AI are clear cut, right? The AI systems seek to replicate human traits and
Yeah.
computational capabilities in the machine and surpass human limitations that at speed. This is the big difference. We are constrained by the speed at which we can compute things. You add speed to the rapid learning of this artificial intelligence platform, and suddenly you get problem solving skills that are faster and better than a human being, for the most part, right? So artificial synapses that mimic the human brain will likely direct the next generation of computing. I mean, that's where AI is going. It's absolutely fascinating. The components, it may be analog, it may be digital, it may be based on transistors traditionally. And now that you've got chemicals, you've got biological synapses, you've got photonics, you add all of this to quantum components for speed, and you've got computers with AI that can automate things faster than you. They include memory emulation, speech recognition, learning, planning, and there's so much that AI does. ChatGPT is an example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's for the people like me on the ground, the layman who was just going, oh my word, I'm not that smart when it comes to tech, but now you're telling me that there's something that can make things much easier and more accessible. So in essence, we should embrace it and just make sure that it allows us to have easier access and be
Yeah.
better at what we do.
It gives us predictability. It brings a bit of foresight. It gives us something that we might not be able to see in our own limited, cranial capacity. So just like the telephone never replaced human speech. Okay, just like
Mm.
TV didn't replace
Yes.
my ability to sit face to face with you. Just like the internet didn't do away with the with books. You still read. So
Yes.
a chat GPT or AI is not there to change or to replace human. It's there to speed up functions. It's there to bring analysis. It's there to bring predictability. It's there to bring forecasting. But you still need a human being. You still need someone who understands us. And maybe our roles as human beings evolve and change, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
we can be replaced by some artificial intelligent robot. Maybe long after,
Yes.
it,
I think it comes down to ego. Human being, it's all the ego. That's the main thing. We just need to let our egos go out the way and use things to make it better. Imagine we never embraced the smartphone, Dennis. Imagine, like you said, you spoke about all these things. And then what's the downside? Let's speak a bit about the downside.
um, look, I mean, so AI. I mean, so in my mind, there are kind of 4 or 5 hot topics, 4 or 5 things that are going to change the world in near future. AI being one of that. The challenge, though, is that the rapid pace at which some of this advances happen
Can we keep
doesn't
up? Yeah.
doesn't give us time to not just keep up, but to mitigate what we didn't think of. So, will AI, is there a possibility that a machine would kill somebody
Yeah.
of its own volition? So, have we as a society thought about what is the legal implications of this? Who do you actually arrest? The computer, the
Yes.
robot, or the person that built it? Okay, so we the repercussions we're so good at building machines that can predict stuff. What
Mm.
we are not ahead of though is what are the things, or can we predict the consequences of these things? Will it actually in the short term? So a very simple example with AI, students are now using AI to write their theses and their uh, exam questions. And universities are now suddenly scrambling to find out a framework and
Yeah.
a model to understand this problem and mitigate against it. Um, there's also, for everything that we design in the world, um, if it's driven by purpose and with noble intent, it brings value to human beings. So AI can be used to predict certain things in failures in machinery, failures in the human body. But these machines can also predict or can also build, um, cyber threats. They can build platforms for DNA theft. They can
Mm.
build platforms for financial theft. They can build platforms for circumventing legal and regulatory frameworks and the law. And then, you take AI as perhaps one big wave coming, um, but the other sort of 2 or 3 things that are coming very soon is cognitive computing technologies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let me kind of explain that. Our
Yeah.
our
Break it down.
computing nowadays is kind of still traditionally a silicon-based information in. It does some stuff, it computes some stuff, and it gets information out. But the fundamental acceptance across most scientific and technology ecosystems is that everything in the world is driven by algorithms, even your own body, the way
Yeah.
it connects. But these algorithms are not just connecting via the transistors and silicon. We're now playing with biological computing. We're playing with photonic and optical computing. We're playing with chemical computing and quantum computing for speed. So if you
Mm.
look at these cognitive technologies, biological computing is the advanced science of using biological products to perform actions that would traditionally be done using components like copper, wire, and fiber. Common sort of biological components used in these studies include amino acids and DNA. So we're now
Wow.
we're emulating what the body does. We're understanding how the
Yeah.
body computes, how the body functions, and we're taking those computational functions and we are manipulating the natural chemical reactions found in these substances to perform a desired outcome. Can you build another human body? Arguably, it's possible, right?
It feels, it feels like I'm in one of those Marvel movies because I feel like I feel like in a DC or a Marvel movie, this is possible. We're seeing. I'm obviously throwing it out in the air, but that's like AI at another level. But then this is the question though. It has its bias because it means that if you have some bucks, then you'll have more access than others. It's not equally spread.
Oh wow, Dylan, this is so maybe I should apologize for saying some people don't see ahead, but you're kind of seeing far down the radar here, and in a
Yeah.
very absorbing series of books. Yuval Noah Harari wrote about the initial book being *Sapiens* and the next one being *Homo Deus* and what's going to happen next. But when the world of this technology fuses with biology, and you get superhumans. You get spare parts for your body. You get the ability to 3D print tissue. Who
Wow.
would benefit from that? So the rich, the guys who can afford it, they can get a best spare body part. So the
Wow.
divide between the haves and the have-nots has always been a financial divide and a material divide. And now suddenly you find that there's a healthcare divide. You will find that there's an education divide. And
Hmm.
the access to this technology, whilst it is not pervasive, means that some people benefit from it more than others. So, let's rewind a little bit. Those who could afford the internet in the old days, or those who could afford a
Yes.
PC, got a head start on programming in the old days in Pascal and
Yes.
COBOL and those rudimentary languages. Today, they're the data scientists of the world and the actuaries of the world. So, the access to this technology, sadly, for the medium to short-term future, will be in the hands of those that can afford it, right? So you have this problem of people who have things having more, people who have access to
Yeah.
things having access to even more, right? So that digital divide keeps growing. Those who have money would benefit. You then have this impact on demographics. We touched on this in episode 1, being one of the mega trends where people live longer. Um, but there's some people in the world fixated on saying, "Can I keep my brain alive even when the body's dead? And can it be functional?"
Yes.
Now, academically, this is possible. So, a person who wants to remain the chairman or the CEO, the owner of his company, even after he dies,
Wow.
he doesn't need a body, right? I mean, it's a brain plugged into a series of either biological or photonic or silicon-based apparatus that allows him to be functional and still give instruction.
Wow. It's a lot. Why though? There's no need for that. Just leave the company to your family or to have a wall drawn up. There's no need. You've had a good time. Yeah.
Well, there's pros and cons, right? I mean, you also don't want to lose the IP.
Ah,
The demographic divide is growing, right? So the expanse of this demographic spectrum. So Dennis at 80 is still going to be functional and still astute, hopefully,
yeah.
and he's competing with his son for a job. His son's
Yes.
not longer competing with his peers; he's competing with his own father or grandfather for the job. And the IP I have means that I have an advantage. My previous disadvantage was
Yeah.
my body was failing. My previous advantage was my brain was slowing down. If those are
Yes.
no longer disadvantages, what does it mean? I,
Yes. Gee, so jobs and relevance become a big thing.
yeah, we talk about that in another episode just on demographics. That's a huge
Mm.
one that's going to impact us coming down the line, right? And then there's another consequence of uh, jobs and its relevance. You are paid to do something today that could
Yeah.
potentially be replaced tomorrow. So, what is your relevance? And
That's
by the
the
time you've finished your 3 year degree, you have not found the relevance because it's changed.
yeah. And we can go down so many rabbit holes with that. And a lot of people's going in this day and age, the education models that we've been exposed to at primary, tertiary, and at various levels, how relevant is it to what's happening in society, and especially with technology? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, the traditional learning models were based on access to information. And therefore,
Yeah.
you had to come to a university, you have access to all the information on the IP, and then you're able to learn something. But now, the internet's changed that. The world has changed all of this. And with AI, information on demand is what we have. So I want to know how to do something today. I fiddle in my car and I'm a bit of a mechanic on the weekends, but I wanted to figure out how to change something in my car the other day. It was last week. And actually, I just went onto YouTube. I found a video. I saw some expert in Germany doing this thing. When I bought the parts, I came back home. Boom, I'm done. Car's working fine. Perfect, fixed. I don't need a
You
mechanic.
you did a whole mechanic apprenticeship, everything you sorted.
Oh, it was just that's
But
the
that's
stuff. It's information on demand. For the specific problem I have now, I need to have the solution now. I
yeah,
don't need to have 10 years of academics to fix maybe 4 problems I might be faced with continuously in my life. I
yeah. And you don't have the time as well.
don't have the time. And so many people see a 5 or 6 year academic career at university as a great investment, and there are many people who see that as a waste of their earning years. They could have been earning a salary in those 5 or 6 years, right? I'm not expressing an opinion here. I'm just saying there are different schools of thought around this, right? So your
Yeah.
job, your relevance, your access to information, it starts to change with all of these tools. The ability to do things faster and quicker than we could do with our human brain means that some things you don't have to do anymore. It's like the calculator. You don't need a pen and paper anymore and lots of sticks to count stuff. The invention of the
Yeah.
zero, if you want to go back, thousands and thousands of years ago, that changed the
Yeah.
game. So it just
Yes.
brings all of this different dynamics to education, to our jobs, to relevance going forward. And then another big one would be, what is the impact of all this technology on new financial and commercial models? You know,
Mm.
there was a big hype around cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Um, you have, the popular ones, the Ethereums, and anyway,
Bitcoin.
so Bitcoin. That's it. Right? So,
Yeah.
so financial models will change. Commercial models will change because in future, instead of me selling my consulting services for what I have in my brain, I realize that I can't sell that anymore because that information is already in the hands of the consumer. They have access to it already. So what do I sell next? What do I earn a living from next?
Yeah.
Maybe I should be teaching them how to use ChatGPT. That's the next monetary stream for me, right?
Yes. If you, yeah, join them and figure out another avenue to make sure that it works in your favor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
different
Dennis,
solutions. Yeah,
sorry, you were,
I was saying and it changes for every different industry vertical, right? So the application of all of this in the mining space, in retail, financial services, in the medical space, education space, the applications of all of this has very different ramifications commercially, financially, relevance, job, IP. All of those things are impacted differently in each of those different industries.
mm, knowledge is power. Period.
Knowledge.
We can't fight that. Knowledge is still power. Even if it's artificial intelligence, we still going to figure it out. But from the 100 years that we looked at into the current space we're in and what's next with AI, etc. Just wrapping up today's very, very fascinating episode, technology driven. What's your closing remarks?
I'm equally excited, but also a bit scared, right? Because old codger like me, I don't know my relevance going forward. I'm a born sort of salesman. I'm a customer facing guy, and I've earned a living all my life by finding solutions to customer problems in the way that I know how to find them using traditional technology, or I don't know how to fix their problem using robotics, which is coming next.
Yes.
I don't know how to fix their problem using advanced materials. Like I said earlier, with 3D printing tissue. You know, we have manufacturing concerns that manufacture things out of plastic, and then in future you'll be 3D printing it, right? And vintage cars is it's an exciting space to be, because you couldn't find parts for
Yeah.
old cars. But now, if you know a person who's got the old car, you take the part, you 3D print it, and you're gone. Now you're happy. So what does it mean for me and my relevance? I'm excited because I think my future generations would live in a very different world, a very exciting world, and I think some limitations would be removed. To coin a cliche, the world's their oyster. But I'm also scared. I'm scared about what have we not thought about. What is it that they're going to be faced with? Will they have an equitable shot at surviving in this world and being successful and being happy,
Yeah.
or will they be faced with different traumas and different, will we have an alien invasion, or will the robots take over? I don't know. That's what scares me.
Someone in all the countries of the world is preparing for an alien invasion and waiting for technology to take over. So if you are that person listening, we hear you. Don't worry. But yeah, very, very valid points and valid concerns. For now, I think all of us just need to make sure that we, like you say, continue to power good, but also just be open to adapting and learning and be present in the time that we are in, instead of being the angry uncle or auntie and being against the change.
Yeah.
100%. Dennis Naidoo, Country Manager and Sales Director, Hitachi Vantara. Powering Good with Hitachi Vantara today, episode 4. We hope you enjoyed it. Megatrend, Sustainability, Rapid Urbanization, episode 1, 2, and 3. Please check them all out. Comment, share, tell your friends, family, and let us know your thoughts. It's been lekker hanging out today. And every time I chat to you, I learn so much. And now you've given water cooler moments. So if you're at the office and you're going to the water cooler, tell your buddies about it as well. Thanks, brother.
Excellent. Thank you, Dylan. Have a super day, man. Cheers.
Cheers, man.